Hello, everyone. This is Raul Ramirez of the Catch Wrestling Alliance. So, we're all about helping you to wrestle better so that together we keep real wrestling alive. Thank you very much for watching or listening, like wherever you get your podcasts or whatever. So, we appreciate all of it. Um, so before we get to today's topic, always got to go over the announcements. So we'll probably have an event coming up at the end of March, but also we're finishing up the quarter at UCLA. So if you happen to be a student or if you have any access to the university gym, uh, we're going to start up again in April. So it'll be basically like we take a few weeks off because of the students. They have finals and then spring break, and then we come back in April. So um, we're definitely going to be gone for a little bit, but we'll be back. But then, with that being said, if you ever come to Los Angeles, we have continuous class at Fight Science MMA every Thursday night. You're welcome to come train. You don't have to join the gym or anything like that. Feel free to just come to train. You got to sign the waiver, right? But it's open to anyone. So and it's pretty cool because we do have some people visit from far away or just different people. So it's really great if you can stop by. So we're always going to be there. If you can't come to Los Angeles and you can't visit my buddy John Strickland over in the East Coast, you can always train with us online at the Catch Wrestling Alliance Academy. That is on our website, catchwrestlingalliance.com. So you're always free to check that out. So thank you very much. And so with that being said, also too, if you have something you can teach online, doesn't have to be catch wrestling, right? It can be something else. If you're an expert in something, you can try Kajabi. That's the 30-day free link is in the show notes. You can always check that out. Okay, so topic for today. So one of you, actually a few people have asked or like commented or wondered about like a lot of the certification courses about catch wrestling that are out there that are like just one weekend and stuff. So Cindy and I actually recorded a discussion about it because she's been training in jiu-jitsu and catch wrestling for over a year now, almost like 2 years, I believe. So in a way, ultimately, I believe that jiu-jitsu kind of has a better idea of like what it takes to like get good at an art or learn an art, because things truly do take time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the conversation. So this is like a pre-recorded conversation that we recorded. So just kind of like the other podcast we did, like last week or whatever. So feel free to be commenting if you're watching this live or whatever. Feel free to be commenting in like on YouTube or Twitch or whatever in the comment section, and then we'll get back to it after this plays. Okay, so this will be over 10 minutes. Okay, all right, so here you go. Hello, I'm Raul, and today we're here with Cindy. Okay, so some of you were asking about, say like online, there's all these different kinds of like weekend certifications for catch wrestling, and kind of wanted to talk about it, where it's like how quickly can you learn catch wrestling, or there's, so even with that, there's like so much to the question. There's so many different ways you can think about it, right? I mean, do you have any thoughts first off on top of your head, or
like the certification? Wait,
yeah, certification, or even like how quickly can you actually learn a martial art?
Seems like a scam.
Yeah.
Because it's like you can't learn everything in like a weekend. It's like you can't learn everything about like any art in a weekend and be certified. Like I think we should also break down what it means to be certified, but like to have such a title is a scam.
Yes. How about a week?
No. Like I'm that's a brag. I'm a level 1 certified stand-up practitioner. But that took months.
Yeah, no, it took you like I think a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think it's just a scam for people who, because we're in such a like the capitalist society, like everything needs to be done fast, like everything needs to be done efficiently. So I think that's what it is. I think like the consumption and of just stuff really fast.
Yeah. What they even call it, like speed running, right? Where it's like these
Yeah.
different computer programs, or
Yeah.
and so it's like, do you really gain the essence of the art by speed running anything, or even can you even say with regards to a martial art, can you actually speed run all the different like variations of things? Like I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, so it's like these different, but like we can kind of compare and contrast. Like even with modern jujitsu, where it's like they have the belt system, and so oftentimes, like they consider like 10 years, like the amount of time it takes to get a black belt and stuff. So that might be maybe a little too long, or whatever. But either way, they're taking the approach where it's like to master something, it takes time, and not just a weekend or a week. It takes several years. Right, so even with I usually like to use the analogy of a language, where it's like, yeah, you might be like in a week or a weekend, you can maybe learn some greetings or a few sentences and stuff to help you to survive in another language. But like actually learning the language and learning the way people use the language, so say like American English is even different from English, like British English or Australian. We say things differently, or we have different slang, and so you wouldn't necessarily be able to catch all that or to learn all that like so quickly. It just takes time being immersed in it, so you can even hear the differences, right? So even with your experience, because say like both Cindy and I, we like training at different jujitsu gyms, and so we have a lot of experience with jujitsu. So I think in a way it's like pretty fair to compare and contrast like their approach and how they like you. Well, say, do you feel like jujitsu is different enough that it's its own thing, right? It's its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it takes a while to kind of like see or kind of understand like these kind of like its own slang, or even like different schools have their own terminology and all these different things. I mean, so all this stuff takes a while to learn, right?
Yeah, I remember in the beginning, like the first few months of jujitsu, I was just like kind of floating along, just kind of like airheadedly, just blindly following along. But like, no way could I ever be certified in that in a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not to say that it's like especially with our internet and all that, it's like you can totally like be coaching and helping each other learn like remotely, but like even then, it's like if you see something and you can learn it, I mean, it still requires practice before you can really like embody the moves where you can pull it off in a match. I think that's another level, right? It's like if you if you learn it superficially, you might not even gain proficiency or gain the ability to use it in a match or even sparring for a while. Right?
I think the hypotheticals and like theoreticals of like knowing something is different than being able to apply it. So like learning from someone or learning in an environment they're able to apply it and like do it is really important, because it's just like if you know how to do math but you're not able to apply it, then like what's the point of doing it?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, totally. Like you can do addition and subtraction and all that, but then like how do you build a bridge? Or
yeah. Or it's even like I know what the quadratic function is, formula is, whatever, but like can you apply it to a math problem? Like if not, then it's useless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, do you feel that like with regards to the different, so it's like even jiu-jitsu has like what a lot of people are calling now like sport jiu-jitsu, like what a lot of people are doing in the tournaments, as opposed to like traditional where it has like the different martial art aspects, right? Like traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu. Um, Also, like based on your experience with the catch wrestling as well. I mean, like uh, how long, or do you think there is even a time limit, or can we say there's like a minimum time limit of what you should be, how you should be training, or maybe there should just be an approach to training, right? It's just like you can learn the technique, and then you got to be drilling it or learning how to apply it. Then maybe after you're able to pull it off in sparring, then you can say you've learned something. Or
Wait, sorry.
yeah, kind of started one place, but then yeah, I was thinking like how should someone think about learning an art, right? It's like, do you like say technique and then like application, and then even after you've applied it so many times, like if you learn a drawing technique, but you learn how to draw faces, right? So you got to be drawing a lot of faces, and then eventually you can get to where you can call yourself proficient at drawing faces or something.
Because learning is a continuous process, and there's no stop to it. And I think that's a good way of approaching it. Like, if you learn a technique, great. Keep drilling it, keep practicing it. Can you apply it during practice? Can you apply it during live rounds? And just repeat that process until there's nothing left to learn, which is never. But I think always also be open to adjustment and criticism and adaptation. Being open to changing your ways. Always be learning. I don't think it's ever an end point to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you kind of mentioned, or you alluded to something earlier where it's like, even what is like the nature of certifications? Like, do you feel like so what were your thoughts about that, where it's everything being commodified in the society? So,
I mean, I don't like it. Like, I do things on the side, but it's like, I don't want to make money off of it. Why do you need to make money off? I mean, same thing with jiu-jitsu. Like, you can pay to get your blue belt, or you can pay to get ranked or promoted. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that you can get certified in a weekend. It's just like I don't know. I don't want to say it's a get rich scam, but like maybe to them, but I don't like it, and I think I lost my train of thought. I just don't like it.
You just saw red. Yeah. So yeah. It's like so. With that being said, because even with catch wrestling in particular, so going back to catch wrestling, it's like, so say a takedown is a move in isolation, right? So you take someone down, you can either stay standing or you could follow them down. Even in catch wrestling, the main goal is to pin them. So it's like there's this whole process or this whole flow that happens, or a sequence, right? And so learning one technique is only like a part of that sequence. So to learn the art is like kind of not just learning like takedowns, or it's kind of learning the whole flow. So I think that whole flow does take time to learn, right? How you can get someone down, are you gonna stay down with them, and how are you gonna then transition to pinning them or controlling them somehow so you can get a submission hold or whatever. So that's like this whole, that is like kind of like the whole art, right? The whole flow is something that definitely takes a while to learn.
I think, have you ever played like I don't know what kind of video games there are, but they're like video games that like you start off like in one area, but you can branch off like your different skills, and like those skills branch off to different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's how I imagine like flows and techniques. Like you can learn one thing, but then like that thing can branch off to different things. But there's so many different branches, and you can learn the main branches of stuff like quickly, sure, maybe like in like catch wrestling, but then you're missing out on all the little details. So you don't really appreciate the art of it.
Yeah, and so sometimes even just like so you can even like go back to even the belt system, right? In jiu-jitsu, it's like putting different belts, it might give someone a sense of accomplishment. So I think that's why it's been so successful. But then you have, say, sports like boxing where there's no belts, but it's like if you just love it and you love doing it, then you can, like, your coach can say, "Oh, I think you're ready to compete," or and then those who continue to just practice, right, then they can move up the ranks and become a professional fighter or whatever. It's like, but they've never got any belts, right? So, um, would you kind of prefer that, or what would you prefer, a belt system or just like the recognition of beating everyone, or do you even think boxing would be like you can't even really consider like ranking, right? I guess just pro ranking, I guess.
It's just performance based in boxing, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I totally prefer. I think now that you mention it, I feel like the belt system is a complete way of, again, commodifying the sport. It's for retention and, yeah, that sense of accomplishment. They're trying to retain people just based on that sense of accomplishment and people getting people to come back. But I'm sure, I mean, sure, it's recognition and whatever, and but then someone could argue that, like, in boxing, then how do you match people up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like say with catch wrestling back in the day, a lot of times it was the coaches making the matches, and so you can kind of have it that way. But I think, say, with boxing, since it's so established, then they do have like these lower tournaments where if you do well, then you can qualify for bigger tournaments, and then you can qualify. There's like qualifying tournaments for Olympic competition and stuff like that. So they they don't say, like, IBJJF for jiu-jitsu. It's like they require you to register as a belt, right? And then you can only do those tournaments for your belt level, and then once you move up, then you can do those tournaments for purple, brown, whatever. But in boxing, right, it then comes back to performance based, right? Like if you win the qualifying tournaments, then you can maybe end up qualifying for the U.S. boxing team or stuff like that. I mean, that sounds like more appealing to you.
Yeah, just because it's more authentic.
Yeah. Oh, well then, I think you have a pretty good approach to learning, where it's like, but yeah, it's like, so, but nowadays, like, I think you've seen where it's like a lot of people really desire the black belt or certification in something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, not to be devil's advocate, but like, what's your issue with the certification catch wrestling? Is it because it's like taught by someone who doesn't really appreciate the sport? Do you think it's because it's someone who doesn't? It's like, I lost my train of thought. I got distracted. But like, what's your issue with it?
Oh, okay. Well, it was brought up by one of our fans, so I kind of wanted to just present it to you.
Oh, I mean, like,
but like,
why does it?
Well, I think it can kind of go back to the idea where it's like, say, if someone doesn't quite know the art, right,
Mm-hmm.
then and it would be very sad, right, if they taught someone else, right? So then they have this it's like teaching someone English and you just know the greetings and then you're acting like a master, right? You just know how to say hello or goodbye, or like where's the restroom, kind of like that. Or you might know some techniques, but out of context. So there's a lot of pieces missing. So and the thing to say about catch wrestling, or even like all kinds of martial arts, or like grappling. We'll talk about grappling in particular. It's like there are many things that are shared, and when say like for catch wrestling in particular, since I had been doing like a lot of Chinese wrestling, or Sanda has a lot of takedowns, I felt catch wrestling and Sanda share a lot of the same takedown techniques, but I wouldn't call Sanda catch wrestling, or there's still, so since there are a lot of shared techniques, like just universally, like all around the world in grappling, then it goes back to learning the style, like the way things are done. Right? So you can't necessarily learn the way things are done um, like right away, right? You can't learn the slang of English, or especially the slang of West Coast English, and it's a there's all this nuance and stuff to it. So I think that'd be the problem that you would probably never get like from someone who just has a superficial understanding.
Couldn't someone argue that like personal training is certification?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say like then. So since I was a trainer, right?
Yeah.
So since I was a trainer here at UCLA, we did do like a long course. I can't remember how long it was, but like then we trained to not only become a trainer but to understand like the exercise physiology and stuff. So from there, you can at least have a solid foundation onto like how to train someone safely and to help them achieve their goals, like exercise wise. But then even after you got the certification, then you could get more certifications on learning how to use different equipment or different things like that. So in some way, like that kind of certification is maybe like learning how to do things safely and properly to help someone like work out right or achieve their fitness goal. So in that way, it's like it could be a little different. Because yeah, sure. I mean, there's all these different exercises or these different things you see, these different exercise trends that you can see online. But it's in a way, it's still. I would think maybe with personal training isn't necessarily an art, right? I mean, I'm sure maybe someone would disagree, but I don't necessarily see it that way. And I've been a trainer. I was a trainer for many years, right? So like for through like undergrad, even. I was working as a trainer outside gyms as well. I think you kind of get a foundation of like how to do something safely or how to the different modalities of training and stuff, so you can help someone. But I don't see it's like yeah. I guess maybe I don't view it as the same thing. Yeah. Do you have another question for me? Okay.
I sit on it.
Okay. Yeah, so ultimately though, it's like I think so. Then would you agree that maybe like say something like jujitsu or catch wrestling or even what kickboxing, even boxing, right? They're their own thing. There's an art to it. Like even say with boxing, right? They consider what like Cuban boxing or Mexican boxing, like their own kind of way of doing things, right? So even American and Russian and stuff like that. So it's like we have these kind of different styles. So you can't just by learning a jab and a cross and hooks, you don't all of a sudden know Cuban boxing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be difficult. Yeah, it's like, maybe it's a good example where it's like because they have a lot of great footwork and even some of I saw an interview with one of their coaches and they're talking about like the like the whole footwork thing, the whole movement approach to even playing like while they're training and stuff. So there's kind of a whole way of them doing things that yeah, just learning a jab and a cross wouldn't make you a Cuban boxer. Yeah. Cool. So hopefully anybody who's watching this can kind of give you some thoughts about that, or maybe it's making someone mad. So,
I'm certified.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, you gotta keep training, you gotta kind of learn the way, like learn the art, and that's like time consuming.
I think it just comes down to like true appreciation for the art. If you're like, you wouldn't mind the process of learning and like you'd enjoy the process of like continuous learning if you like truly enjoyed and appreciated the art. But if you don't, then you'd want to learn it quickly and you'd want to just be done with it like a certification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't think any art can be taught like that. Like a personal training certification, you can. It's like there's a textbook, right? There's these different things where it's like, okay, these are the different modalities of training depending on your goal, and it's pretty much like pretty in a way like kind of black and white for some certain things. You can kind of do different, like even on our last podcast where we talked about training and talking about like cardio and weights and doing battle ropes and all that. So that's these are different modalities, but it's not necessarily like an art, right? There's like no, I mean, I don't want to say there's no art of working out, but there's like these are just different ways to work out, but it's not necessarily like learning a martial art, right? It's not the same as learning how to paint a portrait, right? You know, like a famous painter, right? There's different, there's like, you know, it takes a while for your painting to be put up in a museum, right? It's like, you can't just like, you know, learn how to mix paint and then you're in a museum the next day or whatever. So these things take time. So hopefully that helps everyone. You have any other thing to add?
No.
Yeah, I really like that point you had about like yeah, if you don't love it, then you want to just commodify it and then get that certification and like be done with it. But an art, there's really no ending, right? So you even have that's why we have all these different Picasso paintings, or so he didn't just like, okay, I think I mastered it, I'm done. He kept painting, or you know, the same thing with all the greats, the great artists of any kind of art. So this includes martial arts. All right. Okay. So I think maybe we'll end it here for this. Thank you very much, Cindy. All right, still awake. Thanks for everyone to who are still here or whatever. So let's go ahead and get to some of your questions here. So, mostly Mike Hunt. Thank you for commenting. I'm glad you're here. Let me go ahead and kind of scroll back to some of the earlier comments. Let me see. So I'll put it up on the screen. My striking was always good. Grappling was where I had trouble. I searched for the best wrestling arts and found jujitsu, and then and searched and found BJJ, and then searched how to beat BJJ and found Sakuraba and catch wrestling. Very cool. Very cool. But yeah, Sakuraba basically was using, like kind of like that top-down wrestling approach from catch wrestling, and he was able to beat all the Gracies there, so much so that what they call him the Gracie Hunter, right? Let me see. Belt. The belt system is for safety. A purple belt knows to take it easy on a white belt. You get some crazy white belts going. Well, actually, that's the thing. Right? They're always talking about in Nogi right now that like they're always saying like, oh, the lower belts are so much better nowadays than before. And so yeah, you might never like if you take it too easy on a white belt, you might get submitted. Let me see. Yeah, so I guess so here you go. All arts are a vocation. So maybe I was thinking so like with regards to that part we're talking about like personal training. So I would say like yeah, there can say like it can be say like if you're a personal trainer, then you can be considered like more of a technician. So say like with medical arts, right? They also call it medicine, right? But practice or medical arts, right? But there are certain things that they don't necessarily call an art. So like if you have something where it's like with the ist at the end, that's usually a technician, right? So a dentist, right? Or what else can we say? Like or sometimes even call them X-ray technician or something like that. So a lot of times it's like there's like uh, there's something that they know how to do, so it's kind of straightforward. So you can go for them for your whatever, like the X-ray to someone who knows how to take X-rays, or someone who knows was it the dental technician, where they're the ones that know how to clean your teeth, and that's pretty much all they do. It's just like techniques that they learned and like that. So in that way, like that would be like uh they it's not necessarily like an art, right? You're not uh you're just doing a service and not necessarily making it an art. We got a lot of comments. Let me see. Let me keep going here. Yeah, Picasso learned to paint. Spent the last years of his life learning to paint like a child. Yeah, and he even had his buddy for a while named George Brock. And he seemed to be the one that would bring up new techniques or new styles, and but Picasso just kind of like did a lot of that better. So it's like that's why we know about him more than his buddy. A wrestlerist. Yeah. So and you know how sometimes they call different martial artists like technicians, right? But I think a lot of times that means not so much like art, but it's like they're really good at technique, right? They're not muscling certain techniques, right? They just um, they're really good at showing how they get to some place. It's not like a random scramble and they just end up in a good spot. Mike. Personally, I don't like the idea of grappling and striking being distinct. The right tool for the right job. Yeah. I like say like I used to kind of get. I used to be way more into MMA, and I guess nowadays I kind of like them separate because feels I don't know because maybe even that whole idea where it's like it takes a long time to learn something, so then you get a lot of people in MMA, which like some might have the jujitsu black belt, so like they understand like a lot of the joint locks and stuff, but then they might be lack a lot of times. Basically, like if they're strong in one point, they might be lacking somewhere else, or they're strong at the wrestling, they might be lacking on some of the striking or some, you know. So it's um, I have appreciation for like the unmixed martial arts, I guess, and I think that's why like say some like a promotion like one championship is gaining popularity for like doing like Muay Thai only matches or kickboxing matches or submission grappling matches. Even what UFC is having like submission grappling events now and stuff. So I think there's just a general appreciation. Mike Hunt, are you bothered that a double wrist lock is known as a Kimura? Um, I guess sure, why not? Because we have a name for it already. That's the thing. So, but yeah, I guess even in English, you know, stuff happens where it's like, well, we have tissue paper, but one company made their products so famous that now everyone calls them Kleenex and stuff. So, stuff like that happens. So I guess you just have to accept it, right? But yeah, so it's like I know that most people will refer to a double wrist lock as a Kimura, so just kind of knowing going back to language, right? Like knowing the language of jujitsu and like when I teach, say like at UCLA, we'll have students who come in from a jujitsu background, or even teaching at Fight Science. You know, people come to my catch wrestling class and they have like a jujitsu background. Then you know, I I can just tell, you know, say use the word Kimura and they already will know what I'm talking about. But then let them know that it already has a name. Mhm. Bruce Lee had a black belt in judo. I'm surprised he never learned American wrestling in university. Yeah, actually, we have nearby here in Los Angeles. We have the Inosanto Academy. So it's like, was it Bruce Lee's like best student or one of his main students? So that after Bruce passed away, then you know their school lives on, and so um, one of the things that they listed or that was listed as Bruce Lee taking techniques from, and he even drew like um, something about like all the different martial arts that he drew from, and one was catch wrestling was listed as one of them. Um, but I would go as far as to say actually having known a lot of I know a lot of the Inosanto people. So because that was like Bruce Lee's approach, like learning or kind of taking what's maybe useful to you. So I wouldn't say that they really know catch wrestling, but they're really heavy in one of the offshoots of catch wrestling was like the shuto or whatever. One of the Japanese like MMA styles is based off of catch wrestling, so they're more into that, and that's something that's taught at the Santo Academy now, as far as I understand, because some of my coworkers at UCLA train there, and that's what they've told me, and that's kind of what I've seen from the Santo Academy. Like their the stuff that they have like online and what so yeah, it's not necessarily like catch wrestling, but I think like I'm pretty sure it's called shuton. Yeah, so that was kind of like that was their approach because that was Bruce Lee's approach. So yeah, so a little different. So yeah, that's what so like they would know that as opposed to like even learning the pure catch wrestling. So yeah, things are like a little different, but someone might be more attracted to that way of learning or there's like the Jeet Kune Do way, and that's totally fine if you like that. Yeah, it's like either way, like Jeet Kune Do, you wouldn't necessarily be able to learn it in just a couple days, or no art you can really just absorb so quickly. All right, well, if you have any questions, we'll type them in now. um, So, well, yeah, thank you all for checking that out. If you have anything, actually, we have a few topics that we'll be going over. But if you have anything you'd like us to talk about, let us know. You can put it in the comments. Um, yeah, we're happy to talk about anything. And I'm also trying to get some more guests and we'll see who comes on, right? Because actually, there was a book that came out just recently. I just finished reading it a bit. It's called "Winning the Inside Game." I kind of mentioned the author. Oh no, well, we recorded something, and so that's probably gonna come out next. That'll be the next podcast where talking about the mental aspect of like winning at the highest level, and it's by one of the authors that I really like, and he's actually like a running coach, a university level running coach, talking about like how you really the psychological aspect will knock you off your games, even if you're really if you've mastered the art of catch wrestling, and then you're winning all these matches, and then all of a sudden, one day it just feels like nothing. You can't do anything right. A lot of times it's like that psychological root in there. So I kind of want to talk about that, and it'd be really cool to get the author on the show because I just like his style. Seems like a pretty level-headed guy. Um, so yeah, I'll reach out to him. That'd be kind of cool. So if not, I'll just I'll just read excerpts from the book anyway. Was there? 'Cause that's stuff that's kind of interesting to me. If that's interesting to you, let me know. Oh, Mike. Okay. BJJ at least keeps grappling alive in people's mind. Yeah, totally, totally. Mike, any advice for different body types? Yes. So are there different wrestling techniques? There's the other thing too. So it's like there are different wrestling techniques for people who are really tall or people who are shorter. People who are usually really tall, you don't necessarily have to do like a knee over toe double, like a blast double or something like that, because that means you have to crouch like a lot. So it would be like a less efficient use of your body. So a lot of times, like the things like headlock throws, snap downs, all these other kind of taller wrestler techniques. Doesn't mean that shorter people can't use these techniques, but these would be the techniques that you as a say like if you're a taller person would want to try to use more often. People, yeah. So hopefully that answered your question about tall guys. Are people missing a limb? Uh, yeah, yeah. Actually, I think even in one championship we had he was doing Muay Thai, I believe, but yeah, a guy who had that congenital birth um, problem where they are missing like a hand, and I believe this guy, this fighter, is missing most of his forearm, I believe. But yeah, still finds a way to become professional at kickboxing. So without really having arm on one side to defend his head, he still makes it work. Because even for defense, right, you can try your best to get your shoulder involved, tucking your chin, stuff like that. So it's like with regards to like wrestling, there are ways. Oh, and then you say like even in wrestling, but there's one wrestler, was it from Arizona? Was it Anthony Robles? Like go ahead and check him out. Watch him. He's done fantastically well in collegiate wrestling. Oh, Mike, are you not American, Mike? Yeah, I'm 172 centimeters, 90 kg. I don't know what that is in imperial. Yeah, neither do I. I think 90 kg is like, what is that? Over like, is that 200 pounds? Or maybe just around 80, 180, 190, something. Then 172 centimeter, I have no clue. But yeah, I have no clue. But 5'7". Okay, yeah, 5'7" and 180. Yeah, it sounds like like that's like an 80 cc. That's like a good weight for. I say maybe you'd want to try to lose a little bit, but if you're really strong, then it shouldn't matter because if you're really strong and have good technique, you can you can do really well in like wrestling or no-gi. Yeah. So yeah, no, go ahead and I'd say just keep working on your technique. If you want to be doing, I would say like go for try ADCC if you can do the ADCC opens and stuff and see how it goes because with ADCC opens they don't have belt divisions, so you can I think that beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So you can try your luck especially if you've been so kind of going back to like the whole belt thing, or can you learn an art really quickly? Basically, no, you can't, right? It takes time to learn any art. So um, you you can try if you've been training for a long time for several years. Go ahead and try intermediate or advanced division. ADCC, the advanced division is called Pro. So you can try it out, or if you totally get just like destroyed, then maybe you can try like an intermediate division or something like that. You see, Donnie does dishes. I'm sure everyone's happy to know that you do, or your roommates or your spouse or whatever is happy that you do the dishes. Um, but Donnie does dishes. I just got here and I subbed because catch wrestling is better than BJJ. Oh, I'm really happy you appreciate catch wrestling. It's really fantastic. And um, like last November, I used catch wrestling to win the Jiu Jitsu World League Pan American Championship. I never went to my back, right? So um, it really works. So you can use it in no gi competition. That's what I'm saying. So it's specific. So without the Jiu Jitsu World League, they have rules that are really similar to like the IBJJF. So that would be something that like they have a lot of points, and so you can still do well in using catch wrestling. But for ADCC, the rules are even more in favor of wrestling techniques. So much so that a lot of jiu-jitsu people call ADCC a wrestling competition. I don't see it that way. I still see it as more of a jiu-jitsu competition, but you can use wrestling to your advantage in ADCC. So, um, or even say like in a lot of submission only competitions, no points or whatever. But ADCC specifically, you can use wrestling to your advantage because if someone takes you down and you immediately roll to defense or referee's position or what they call it turtle in jiu-jitsu, um, they don't get points. So it's still considered like not a takedown. So or not a completed takedown. But if they throw you down and you land belly up, then you give up points. So I think that's why I think that's why you made me think of ADCC. So it's like Mike, if you want to just like try your hand at that, then that'd probably be one of the things you can, and then you can try the different divisions. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what country you're in right now. Maybe England, right? But or Australia or something. But there's more and more ADCC competitions, like all like often. So I'd say try it out. I think I think sumo is underrated. If they had weight classes, we'd see more sumo in the UFC. Oh yeah, probably. I think uh sumo is really great, and what is kind of cool about it is like it's like they just have like a minimum threshold, so people can once they reach that threshold and they win enough, then they get put in the top division. That's what you see on TV, and so it doesn't matter like if you're like at the minimum weight and height for the top division, you're still there. So you'll see like these huge discrepancies in height and weight and stuff. So um yeah, it's and but the thing is like yeah, you see like people react very fast, right? So it's like once they start the match, it's really fast action. Okay. Mike, what do you think of never going to your back? I think it's totally fine because if you have like a wrestling oriented style, then yeah, you never really need to go to your back. And also, if you're really good at escaping, if someone takes your back, it shouldn't be a problem. And even if you do wrestling, you should be practicing like if someone jumps on your back, how to escape. Even at 10th Planet headquarters, where I train in Nogi, that's one of the things that Eddie Bravo has us doing. Like every class with him, we start like someone on your back or and you have to practice escaping or practice reversing, practice escaping. And at the same time, they're practicing their counters to your escape and stuff. Uh, so there's kind of no excuse because there's the old idea, right? Where it's like, oh, if you give your back, it's the beginning of the end and all that. Said, but really, like, if you're good at wrestling, you're gonna be good at. You should be good at defending if someone jumps on your back. You should practice escaping if someone jumps on your back, and then if you're on someone's back, you should be practicing things besides just rear naked choke because a lot of people are really good at defending chokes. So it's good to be practicing all these things. So it's kind of like there's no excuse for uh, like thinking that like if someone's on your back, that's the end, right? You gotta stop thinking you gotta stop thinking that way. Tony does dishes. I love wrestling. Yeah, me too. Let me see. Sumo is pretty crazy. 2,500 pound guy, oh, two 500 pound guys smashing into each other. Yeah, yeah, and it's it's very cool, very cool. I try to watch every pro tournament, and it's pretty grueling too, right? Because they like it's like a 15-day tournament, so it's just grueling. Bring the see if the camera. I think that for some reason the camera like moved. All right. Um, Let me see. A sumo wrestler is so strong they can lift another. Yeah, it's so cool. And a lot of it is like momentum and technique. So someone kind of when you collide, and if you say pull up on their belt just at the right time, they can they just end up being lifted. Let me see. A to Z AZ Ray videos. Oh, is it Arizona? All right. So welcome. Thanks for commenting. It says, is your approach to coaching and teaching just centered on catch wrestling, or do you like to combine wisdom from different grappling styles? Um, it is definitely since this channel is like a catch wrestling channel, it's definitely based off of catch wrestling first. But since it's like grappling, so we talk about the different styles. A lot of times, like so, yeah, I've done jujitsu for a long time as well. So a lot of times we talk about some of the different techniques or how to counter them. A lot of the common, because like most people are doing jujitsu, so we talk about countering like jujitsu techniques with catch wrestling. Um, so a lot of it is like uh, helping people to understand maybe how to use catch wrestling in a no-gi scenario, stuff like that. So it's like we can show, or what we do show is like still catch wrestling centered, but then we can kind of see or show like how you can apply that in a uh, like no-gi scenario. Vaquero man, how do you change your how do you change your teaching approach for different students? Some students are more athletic, others have done sports, or others are thinkers or analytical. So I personally like to focus on principles. I don't really do like how it's like trendy right now, the ecological or was it constraints based approach. I don't do that, but I really focus on like having students understand the principles of different techniques, or just say like with regards to like a submission hold, right? Like a toe hold or something like that. There's like this whole push pull element. And so you try to get students to think about the principles so that that's how you can find these submissions in a match where it's not like, oh, you have to do an armbar a certain way, where it's like so rigid, where you're thinking you can only get to it in a certain way. But if you're more principles based, then you can find a lot of these submission holds while you're sparring. If you're thinking, like, oh, this person happens to be reaching at me or grabbing my wrist a certain way, you can escape and maybe counter with some kind of double wrist lock, or like say we mentioned toe hold earlier. You can kind of find it in like out of nowhere in a way. All right. Nixum213, thank you for the content. Keep going. It's very interesting. Okay, well, uh, feel free to say keep asking questions or commenting. Yeah, if you keep asking, then I'll keep answering. Yeah, I really appreciate all your comments. Is it more efficient to run drills than spar? So Mike, back to Mike Hunt. You really should like be doing a mix, right? And I think a lot of times it can become or you can base your training off of like which students are there. If they're like if it's like a more of an advanced class, if you have the luxury of having so many students, you can divide them up into advanced and beginners, right? Then, or even if they've just been there for a few weeks, then you can probably start mixing or kind of flowing more with the class. So, say like in our ongoing Thursday night class at Fight Science MMA, even with beginners, I run it the same way, and beginners are able to like adapt. So quite often, so the beginning part, there's no real warm up. The warm up is I usually on the timer. I usually set like 7 minutes, and um, like people partner up, and then they work on takedowns back and forth. So with minimal resistance, so you can do any takedown you want, but when you take the person down, you have to follow them down and find a way to pin them. Right. So you have to so it starts with a takedown, you go all the way to pin, and then you get up, and then the other person can work any takedown they want, but they have to follow you down and find a way to pin you. So with people who are more advanced, they can provide more resistance. So say like they can fall down more intelligently instead of just like falling backwards, right? They can fall instantly going over to referee's position. The other person has to land on them, right, and keep them down. Then say use all your different techniques like your Nelsons, your all these different things so that you can get them onto their back and pin them. All right. And then we work on like after that, then we do another round of so maybe someone flat on their back, the other person pinning them using whatever like your bridging techniques to get back belly down to escape, etc. So it's kind of like how I mentioned earlier, where say Eddie Bravo has us doing drills where it's like someone's on your back, or if you're caught really deep in an arm bar, escaping from there, almost like the was it situational. So I wouldn't say it's situational sparring so much, but you start off in a very bad position, like pretty deep. So there is like a little bit. You're not so deep where it's like they just like move a little bit and you have to tap, but pretty far in there. But it's still uh like you still have a little room to escape. And then after that, then we work a little bit on specific technique, and then we spar. So a lot of it is kind of like learning by doing, but I wouldn't necessarily call that constraints based because or like ecological because um, I'm not. I think with ecological or constraints based, that's the whole idea where the coach has to create scenarios, right? They call them games, so create scenarios with enough constraints so you kind of funnel the students thinking into discovering the technique that you want them to discover. A lot of comments. Here, let me scroll back. Taquero man. Let me see. That makes sense. So the faster students understand the principles, the faster students learn and has a deep understanding of catch wrestling. Yeah, I think so. But some people, everyone learns differently. So, but it seems so far as like, at least in my experience, even like beginners that come to our MMA, the MMA studio catch wrestling class, um, even if they go in not knowing any takedowns, we kind of show them at first, and I tell them if they learn one, then just to keep like spamming that one, and then we'll kind of show more and more, and they'll see quickly how to even get the same takedown with say like from a headlock or from wrist control or stuff like that, like trying to get a similar takedown from different or making it work from depending on what your opponent is giving you. Oh darn! Any thoughts on the UFC Fight Pass BJJ Invitational tomorrow? Oh, I wonder. Well, my thoughts are like, I wonder who's competing. Is it Mike Muzumeki or darn? I'm sorry, I haven't really thought about that. Darn, I wish I had. Ah, so sorry. Maybe we could. I'll check it out. I mean, I'll try to watch it, and then maybe we can do something about that later. AZ Ray videos. Do you have any upcoming seminars or tournaments coming up? We might have one in here in Southern California, seminar wise. But yeah, if you have a school and you want to bring me out there, then we can totally do that as well. Yeah, always open to that. So we were probably going to be doing matches at the end of March with some of the local gyms here in Southern California. And so yeah, definitely all that will be on our YouTube channel for free, so everyone can watch. I think that's the way it should be. Black Maya, have you been able to duplicate yourself and have some assistant coaches at your gym? Yes, yes. So I have a few people who've been training with me for a really long time. So yeah, and they're at Fight Science. So yeah, that's one of the things too. Is like a lot of times if we have some people who are like complete beginners, um, like maybe I'll have them partner up with someone who's way more advanced or has been training with me for a while. So then they help them learn some takedowns and then I'll go ahead and chime in here and there, but basically we just want to get them to learn by doing. So you want to get them doing something right away and to be thinking about like how to hold someone down, different ways you can control their body and stuff. So Donnie does dishes. Have you ever worked with Eric Paulson? I met him a few times, but no, I went to Wigan to train, and also I went to train privately with Billy Robinson in Arkansas. Like what do you think are essential skills that a good grappler needs to be effective? Yeah, pinning. I think pinning is kind of funny because I've been saying that for so many years, and then a lot of people, like on our social media, a lot of people would be like saying, "Oh, pins are pointless and they're the stupidest part of wrestling," whatever. But then nowadays, so then I think it's kind of started with John Danaher, is being so famous, and then he starts using the terminology like pinning, and then if you pin someone, you hold them down, and then you can find the submission and all that, and then now speaking of ecological, right? The Greg Souders, that's one of that's his terminology now too. He's talking about pins and pinning. That's one of the how he tries to in his mind he breaks down like the different components of like jujitsu, and so pinning is one of them. So it's like it's pretty funny how things have evolved over the years, right? But yeah, pinning, you know, basically controlling their body, being able to hold them down. Um, I think sometimes even like not like taking their well, it just depends. Like I usually don't really take someone's back. If I'm on their back, usually I try to roll them to pin them, and then when they're fighting me or trying to put frames or whatever, then a lot of times they give up like an arm bar or something like say in a nogi scenario, that tends to be what happens. So yeah, pinning so good. Even more so, or the mat wrestling. Oh, I think we'll try to talk about it in another thing, but I saw like I think it was like a famous wrestling coach. He posted something recently on social media talking about mat wrestling be the most important thing. So that's why I really have my students work on the mat wrestling. So in wrestling, the the ground stuff is called mat wrestling. If you didn't know that, you might have already known, but like in when judo, like all the ground stuff, they call it newaza. So wrestling has the same kind of terminology. We call it mat wrestling. So the pinning, the mat wrestling is ultimately the most important thing. And then from there, being good, once you're good at all those things, then the submissions happen, or then you get better at takedowns, or you don't even ever have to be good at takedowns. You can just do what used to be called the leg dive, right? You just dive in for someone, someone's leg. Hopefully, you catch them and take them down. Or if they sprawl on you and you're underneath, great, because your mat wrestling is so good, you'll be able to counter them and pin them and win. We had that happen in Singapore in our 4-man tournament. We had Matt Tran go up against a much larger man from Singapore, and that's what Matt did. He's really good at level changing, and he just dove for the guy's legs and came out on top, pinned the guy. So he went from being underneath, being the smaller guy, diving in, being underneath, to getting on top and pinning him. So yeah, the mat wrestling, yeah, controlling the pins and stuff like that. Ultimate, in my mind, is the most important thing. Ooh, the questions are coming. So let me scroll back. All right. Okay, so I think this is the next one. So Mike Hunt, is gi completely pointless if you're not training for that? Um, in my mind, yes, but you'll have someone who's like a great jiu-jitsu grappler with Marcelo Garcia who just beat Imanari. He talks about, oh, you got to train them both, right? So that's his opinion. So I'm not as famous as he is, right? So, but I feel, yeah, you want to, like, you don't have to train gi. You can totally, I would say, train catch wrestling. If you're wanting to compete in no gi, and you can be doing the jiu-jitsu training, but instead of maybe doing gi, do catch wrestling. Vaquero man, could a belt system work in catch wrestling, or how do you differentiate your student skills as you teach them? A lot of times it's like by watching them, right? You get to see them become more proficient at stuff, at like techniques, or holding someone down, pinning someone, getting submissions, and then when they compete, right? And so stuff for, say, like maybe IBJJF, then that would require, they have like a bureaucracy, so that would require being under a was it a recognized, registered black belt, and then they have to sign off on your belts and stuff like that. So that's when it matters. But say stuff like Jiu-Jitsu World League, they just have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. There's no like they're not gonna keep you from registering in a like intermediate or advanced. Same thing with ADCC. If you want to compete in the highest or the most advanced division, they're not going to stop you, right? It's kind of like up to you. So if you lose, you lose. Yeah. So they're not going to like make it hard for you to compete against the best, which I think is cool. So I think that's why I brought up ADCC earlier too. Like, and I guess Jiu-Jitsu World League. So, but Jiu-Jitsu World League does have like a lot of points, and um, definitely more of like your regular jiu-jitsu competition, but it is very popular. So that's why I also brought it up, because it's like, at least when I've gone, there's like tons of people. So I think it's very popular, and might be something to, it'd be a tournament where a lot of great people are. So like when I was there, I did see a bunch of different famous grapplers, but one in particular was like the Helena Cravar. So I think she's probably, is she going to be competing in the UFC Fight Pass thing, maybe? But yeah. So that would be like, if you're not registered with IBJJF, go and check out Jiu-Jitsu World League. And on top of that, then ADCC, or even other no was it no points submission only tournaments. Go for it. That will really show like how, like, your level, right? Because I think I can't remember who was saying it. It could even have been like that guy from BJJ Fanatics, Bernardo. I think he was talking. I think it was a video that he put out on YouTube where he was talking to someone, and they were saying like, how can I tell if I'm good blue belt or purple belt or whatever. So because you talk about like when you're in your own gym, you're always sparring with similar people, right? A lot of the same sparring partners. Maybe even like a lower belt might get good at countering your style because they're always encountering it, right? So they're saying that maybe one way to find out like your level is then to compete in a tournament. So from there you can see how good, like say if you think you're intermediate, so like in Jiu-Jitsu World League, like intermediate would be, I guess, like you could consider was it purple and brown or maybe blue, purple, brown. Um, so you can try to register for intermediate, and then if you win or keep winning, then maybe you can try advanced, and then you can kind of like see your skill level. I thought that was kind of like a pretty decent way, so throwing that out there, see if that resonates with you. Like my, what does the Black Sash certificate you have mean? Is it regarding? Actually, this is yeah, right behind me. Cool, you're checking it out. So this is that is right after the just imagine. So one of my fingers is kind of pointing at it. Um, that is for like basically like Sanda. So that was like one of the main schools I was training at for like Chinese kickboxing, and so I'd won two national tournaments, national championships for Sanda, and so then I guess it's like kung fu or it's similar. Actually, it's kind of funny. A lot of the Chinese styles are somewhat similar to Western thinking with regards to martial arts, where it's like a lot of Chinese martial arts don't really have belts. It's like a Japanese thing, and like I think like maybe the Koreans like in Taekwondo and stuff, they adopted all that stuff, and um, but the Chinese don't really have belts, so you just continue training. And then since I would compete in Sanda, so like in the national tournaments, it's full contact, so you can win by knockout and stuff. So since I won two national tournaments, then they gave me what they would consider like the equivalent of a black belt. So just to like recognize that, right? So I've been training. I trained in Beijing, China, and this Beijing Sports University for this style with professional coaches and stuff, and then continued here in LA, and then just kept competing. And so kind of like I guess like kind of like the Western mentality where it's like you got the boxing where it's like you keep training and then you compete, and if you win then it just shows yeah you learned it, you learned the art. Oh, this is okay, so Mike Hunt, I noticed that child wrestlers are totally natural, they learn fast. Yes, and it's good that you brought up children because the thing is like as we learn to walk, right, as from like when we're infants, it's totally wrestling, right? Because like a lot of babies, I don't know if you've had a baby or been around babies, right? A lot of times they use bridging like a lot. Like that's one of the first things we can kind of do naturally. So and a lot of like, when an infant is like first born, they could hardly move, and but as they get to the point where uh, they can start rolling themselves over, usually it's like a bridge and like a hip heist, right? So they kind of bridge up onto their neck and then start turning, just like wrestling. And then they get to hands and knees is like a referee's position or defense position, and then they can start standing up. So just like wrestling. So um, like kids can like do wrestling really like easy, effortlessly in a way because it's like they've been doing these moves. Just I think I was talking to someone recently about the ecological approach or whatever, and it's like, well, if someone was left to like discover an art, it might not even be jujitsu, it'd probably be wrestling. Oh, here's a good comment. All right, so don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you, Donnie Does Dishes. Yeah, I appreciate that. Please. Mike Hunt. I'm a martial artist first. Most of my fights end with a sharp tongue and a razor sharp wit. It's a you have like the battle of wits then, right? Yeah, you can find what's like the martial art and all kinds of things. Or they say the art of self defense, and it's like a lot of it's about like tucking your way out of fights. Right? Mike Hunt. Maybe wrestling is unlearning a lifetime of poor habits. Potentially, because but right now, like we still are seeing where people will say like a lot of the wrestling things, like especially like turning your back in a defensive way, is like a bad habit. But ultimately, it's not so much of a bad habit in wrestling. You know, especially if you know like the mat wrestling, you know how to counter, you know how to get out, you know, and if you translate that into a no-gi scenario, if you know how to defend from chokes and then you can escape, great, great. All right, cool. I'm really enjoying talking to everyone, and I appreciate seeing the some familiar handles here. You can't always talk your way out of a fight. Yep, it's good to try though, right? So you don't have to so you don't have to fight, but yeah, well, some scenarios don't allow it. But try your best. Try your best so you don't have to like. Hopefully, you don't get any injuries or anything like that. That would be the worst. But do you remember that one comedian, Cat Williams? Like, so it was like a grown man, and then he I think he got into like a street fight or something with like a middle schooler or something, and he just got wrecked. That was pretty funny. If you haven't seen that, like, go ahead and look it up because he's a really funny comedian, Cat Williams, and he just got wrecked. And so he'll talk about it and like he'll make fun of himself. That was pretty funny. Yeah, maybe I should get going. My cat wants to eat again. So, did you guys watch that movie Flow that won the Academy Award about that black cat? Here's the star. Now my cat's name is Rufus. All right. Mike Hunt. I never understood learning to fight, so you don't have to fight in Karate Kid until I learned to fight. Yeah, exactly. So that's actually a good point where it's like, say, like, I think that's why we have a lot of these, was like all these guys that are like, oh, I can beat up a UFC fighter or whatever. It's like a lot of these guys who never really trained, so that they don't understand all that goes into training and all that goes into fighting, and like it hurts, right? Especially like a lot of the striking stuff, like it hurts, right? So um, they don't understand that. So, but once you start understanding that, and then it's all about like not not fight or learning to fight, so you don't really have to fight. Oh yeah, yeah, Mike. It's funny when you become a tough guy, you don't feel like you need to prove it. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think there was like a long time ago, but I think there was like some research on like where they asked. I think they surveyed a lot of guys who went to jail for like robbing people, and they asked like, how do you know who to attack? And they're saying that yeah, like a lot of times a person who's like untrained and scared and all that, they kind of give off a vibe that these criminals can detect, right? So uh but people who are trained and stuff, a lot of times you're giving off a different kind of vibe, so that you kind of, in a way, you don't have to prove it, right? But you don't have to be looking tough or intimidating. And I've seen like in tournaments, especially like it's kind of funny. I saw it a lot in the kickboxing tournaments where there are these guys who would go in like trying to intimidate people and doing like these big shows of like they try to jump rope really fast and just try to like give mean looks to everyone and all that. And I've seen so many of them. Like one guy was taken out of the tournament in a stretcher, and one other guy just got the shoulder dislocated. This other guy just got like thrown, or because in Chinese kickboxing they have a lot of wrestling in it, so you can suplex people, you can pick them up, you do like firemen's, but you don't go to your knees or anything. You actually have to pick them up, and like you're standing, and then you just toss a guy. So I seen like these guys here who are they would go in like just trying to intimidate and just get like trounced, like just tossed like a pizza, right? Like getting picked up like firemen and then just getting thrown and so yeah, there is like a difference. Like say someone who really knows and understands and trains hard and tries to be a real artist. A lot of times they don't have to like act all tough, right? And so even the guys who are competing, if they're acting tough, maybe they didn't like learn the real art, or they got a lot of stuff yet to prove, right? Or yet to ultimately yet to learn. Let's see. So, uh, so Mike, you got into fights with your man. Mike, actually, what country are you in? Let me know. Yeah, because other countries, it seems as though there are like a lot of like what fights in the pub. Yeah, and yeah, a lot of times when people will try to settle stuff like with a fist fight or something, right? In other countries. Australia. Okay, yeah, that sounds about about right, right? Did you happen to see that one? Was it the self defense Olympics show? It was on YouTube as well, where like the average Joe was from Australia, and like he did like very well compared. Yeah. Wait. Well, maybe you are. Let me see. My I'm from Australia's most dangerous ghetto, Alice Springs. There's a documentary on it. Oh, I'll check it out. Try to stay safe, Mike. You never want to get like stabbed or something. But yeah, no, I forgot what it's called, but it's like where they bring a bunch of self-defense YouTubers and then they try to they put them in different self-defense scenarios and whoever does the best. And then they also have a regular average Joe, and like the Australian average Joe guy is was like doing so well. But he also said he because he's been in different scenarios where he had to talk his way out of fights, or he was actually really good at like kind of squashing a lot of the tension and all that. And then, but he's also pretty good at when like they had planned like fights break out and stuff. So he was actually one of the better contestants. So yeah, Australians are pretty tough. Mike, no guns. Yeah, yeah, that makes a difference. Yeah, but yeah, like you said, just glass bottles, right? So you got all kinds of improvised weapons. So yeah, just hope you stay safe out there. Um, all right, so it's getting pretty late, so I'm gonna sign off. Let's check out this. So, Mike, Mike, if you turn a shopping cart, well, you guys call them trolleys. If you turn a shopping trolley sideways and jump on it, you can take the handle out, and it's a club. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just watch Mad Mad. It's like that. Okay, I'll look for that. All right. Yeah, yeah. But I've been to Australia. It's really beautiful. So I know a lot of Americans, they always talk about how scary it could be to go to Australia because all the dangerous animals and insects and stuff. But I have been to New South Wales, like we're around Sydney, and then the wilderness, the Blue Mountains around there. It's really beautiful. Oh, Mad Max. Okay, Mad. Okay, it's like Mad Max. Yeah. Mad Max with kangaroos, and crazy big spiders and stuff. Oh yeah, and the jellyfish. Yeah, yeah, you got a lot of. Yeah, I've seen a lot of shows like that where it's like Australia has all those shows where it's like the people who patrol the beach and all that, where they have to help all these people who get stung by jellyfish or have all these kinds of things. Um, yeah, but still worth checking out. So I still recommend that anyone travel to Australia, check it out because yeah, because it's it's different from like going to Europe. And yeah, all the different animals and all that. Pretty cool. Even though, yeah, even though they all want you dead, it's still cool to see them. Because that was the one thing, like when I went to Sydney, there's so many cool animals like wandering the city, even like giant birds that were like walking around. Yeah. All right. So thank you all very much for commenting. Think I'm gonna sign off. But if you have anything that you'd like to talk about, go ahead and put it in the comments. And then we already have something planned for next week. But yeah, we'll just write down any of your suggestions, and then we'll get to them. Maybe if we have to do 2 times a week, then that's fine. Fine with me. All right. So thank you very much. Thank you for all the people who wanted to smash the like button and all that. All that stuff helps. So, um, yeah. So thank you. And then ultimately our goal is to help you to wrestle better. And then together we keep real wrestling alive. Thanks. And we'll see you next time.